What's up, guys? How's it going? It's your boy Will coming at you with another movie log, and this is my latest belated monthly roundup. Some updates. I have tried something new with the audio. I'm using a microphone, so while the sound quality probably isn't that much better, at least I am coming through a little bit louder. So for all of the real heads out there who I know love to rip the YouTube audio so that they can listen to this in the car, now you will be able to do that and hear the sound of my voice, even if you hear my voice bouncing around the room. So one step at a time. But kicking things off, the first movie that I saw this past month was Petite Maman. This is French director Céline Sciamma's follow-up to Portrait of a Lady on Fire. And this movie follows a young girl named Nellie, whose grandmother has just passed away. So she and her parents spend the week living in the cottage that her grandmother and her mother lived at when she was a child, clearing it out. And while her parents are doing that, she spends time outside in the woods. And one day, she encounters a girl who looks strikingly similar to her. She also shares the same name as her mother, Marion. She is also building a wooden fortress, just like the one that her mother built when she was a child. This girl also lives in a house that is identical to the one Nellie lives in, and you can see where the story is going. I really loved this movie because of how small and quiet and subtle it is. I mean, it clocks in at just under 80 minutes, and even though this is a modern-day fairy tale, I think that it works really, really well because of its natural approach. If this was an American movie, I feel like it would have been told with this dewy-eyed sentimentality that just is not really the kind of thing that I enjoy. I think it would have undercut it, so I really appreciated that. I also really appreciated how sad this movie is. It's a very warm and humane movie, but it's also a movie about dealing with grief. Nellie is dealing with the passing of her grandmother, but one of the things that I also found very powerful about this movie is that there's a real juxtaposition between the scenes with her mother as an adult, where there's this kind of unspoken rift that exists between them. But then when we see her with her mother as a child, it's completely different. And I feel like it's really a movie about how Céline Sciamma had to retreat to fantasy to find solace for her own grief that she was dealing with. So in that sense, there's definitely a strong undergirding of sadness in this movie, but it's still really beautiful and warm and something that is a good example of a family movie, I'd say. So really, really found it to be special. Definitely one of the highlights of the year, so I give it 4 out of 5 stars. Next up, we have Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Save for maybe 2 or 3 spots where Sam Raimi's very unique brand of screwball horror comedy really cuts through. This is just, basically exactly what you would expect from a late era, very mid MCU movie. So not a lot to say about it. I mean, I enjoyed, and this is going to be a spoiler review, but I really enjoyed the scene where the Scarlet Witch massacres all of the Illuminati. I liked the musical note fight scene at the end between the 2 Doctor Stranges. That was very fun. But besides that, I just don't have a lot to say about this movie. But I do want to recount my theater-going experience because it was very special. I saw it at an Alamo Drafthouse in a theater filled with what I gathered were other MCU heads. And the woman next to me got super excited whenever they introduced the Illuminati. Like, every character they introduced, she was just like, shut up. Like, when they introduced John Krasinski as Richard Reed, she was like, shut up. Whenever they introduced Agent Carter and Black Bolt and Patrick Stewart as Professor X, she just lost it every single time. So to see that and then just see Scarlet Witch come in and massacre all of those characters like right after they're introduced, I wasn't sure, but part of me got the sense it sort of deflated her a little bit. So not that it matters. John Krasinski is going to come back in the Fantastic Four movies. But I did get a little bit of a perverse satisfaction out of seeing this MCU fan get really excited at seeing all of these different characters from all of the different Marvel franchises, and then just have that cut down in the next minute. So anyway, 2 out of 5 stars. Next up, we have Top Gun Maverick. I went ahead and watched the original Top Gun before this, so I'm sort of going to do a double feature review here. And as far as the original goes, I mean, that movie is such a VHS fever dream. I mean, the graininess of it, the very, very, the colors are just so grainy and saturated and stylized. I was really struck by, like I said, what a VHS fever dream the original feels like. Every scene, whether they're in the air or it's just Tom Cruise, driving down the Californian highway. I just really like Tony Scott's very distinctive style in the original movie and found it to be a very enjoyable, campy classic. So that raises the question, how does the latest installment in the Top Gun franchise hold up to every, your dad's, your military dad's favorite movie? And I would say it's better. Both movies have different pros and cons, different things working for them and against them, but at the end of the day, it's Top Gun. The thing that you care the most about is the actual fight scenes, the aerial fight scenes, and with better technology, the new Top Gun just has, I think, better visuals. The cinematography in the flying scenes are very impressive. The direction and editing of them just give them this super lean, sense of propulsion and excitement. And it was fun. It was a fun time, and it pays homage to the original in, I think, a way that just feels very appropriate. I like how straightforward the conflict of the movie is. It's very neatly laid out, and the pilots have to navigate all of these peaks and valleys, both literal and metaphorical, throughout the course of the movie. And it's just a very structured but simple and exciting kind of modern family blockbuster. So I give it 3 out of 5 to 4 stars, something in between that. Next up, we have Crimes of the Future, the latest film from David Cronenberg and a heralded return to form. This is a movie that takes place in a dystopian future where human evolution has accelerated to the point where humans are growing new organs in their bodies, developing new eating habits. I'm not going to say what those eating habits are, but if you've seen the movie, you know. And experiencing biological changes in their bodies that are happening faster than society itself can metabolize on a social level. So David Cronenberg is a Canadian body horror pioneer, profane seer, provocateur filmmaker who made body horror movies that made audiences uncomfortable and squirmy in the 70s and 80s with movies such as The Brood, Videodrome, The Fly, Dead Ringers, Scanners, before moving into a more psychological direction in the 90s, 2000s, 2010s. And now he's back to his body horror roots. I don't think that the response to this movie has been unanimously positive, but for people who are heralding it as a return to form, to his original sort of more horrific and visceral kind of genre roots. I have to agree with those people that this is a return to form. I loved this movie. Like I said, this is a movie that is about a future where human biology is changing faster than society itself can metabolize, and Cronenberg sort of explores this reality through a select group of people. These are masochistic performance artists, registrars, organ registrars, technicians, transhumanist revolutionaries, and much more. The values of these characters are completely different from our own, and it's really the sort of dialogue and way that dialogue is delivered in this movie that really kind of sold the movie for me and drew me into this world. I mean, all of the actors are delivering this very clinical and technical Latin dialogue in a very stilted and kind of uncanny way, and just doing a great job of it. I mean, all of the actors in this are firing on all cylinders, especially Leah Seydoux, especially Kristen Stewart. And I don't know, I loved this. I would give it 4.5 stars out of 5. And last up, we have Men, the latest movie from in-house A24 talent Alex Garland, who gave the production company one of their first big hits with Ex Machina. And he is back with a horror movie, which stars Jessie Buckley as a woman who has just exited from a traumatic relationship following the death of her husband. So she retreats to the English countryside to try healing. And for the next 99 minutes, that's exactly what happens. She walks around, picks some apples, links up with a friend, and just kind of enjoys her time in the English countryside, and nothing bad or weird happens. Just kidding. Obviously, this is an A24 movie that tries to be very frightening and creepy, but also sort of upsetting and disturbing, and exactly what you would expect from what people call post-horror or elevated horror, although we can debate how bad that term has been for horror discourse. But yeah, I just didn't really care for this movie, honestly. It's the first half of it I thought was fine. It has this very kind of plodding, patient, but also very detached delivery that I thought was fine, even though it didn't make much of an impression on me. But then it takes this very sharp turn towards the end, where what starts off as a home invasion, exactly the kind you would expect from any horror or thriller, slowly but then very rapidly evolves into something much more grotesque and weird, and just gets weirder and weirder and more bizarre until it just kind of ends. So I would be lying if I said that I didn't appreciate what Alex Garland was going for here. I mean, I think he was trying to make a movie that works on a very cerebral level, and the more I've thought about it, the more some of the images and themes in this movie have come back to me, and it has grown on me. But the first time that I viewed it, I really just kind of overtly disliked it. I just didn't find it to be thought-provoking or creepy or anything that I think Garland was going for. So very interesting movie. I could see it growing on me with repeated viewings, but as of now, it's probably sitting at about a 2.5 out of 5 stars. And that's it. That's my monthly roundup. So don't forget to like, subscribe, but most importantly, comment. Tell me what you thought of these movies. Tell me if there are any other movies that have come out the last month or two that you've seen that have made an impression on you and you think that I should see. Throw me some recommendations. Follow me at will_messenger on Letterboxd to see movies both old and new that I log, rate, review. Follow me on Twitter at will_messenger. Follow me on TikTok at CEO_dealmakers if you want to see some really, really stupid content, although I don't really post that much, but whatever. And yeah, take care. Until next time.